I became so depressed. I did nothing for like a year.
Wow.
I lost everything.
Wow.
I was so jarred to the core, rattled, that this was not true. I was age 28 when it actually all went down.
Oh my gosh.
It's now been 12 years, so I just turned 40, and I still think I need some therapy.
Deconverting. That's not only scary, but it's huge. You know, I mean, I experienced deconversion from born-again Christianity, and that's not something that's easy for anybody. That's not something that is even safe for a lot of people, because they risk losing their partner, they risk losing their job, they risk losing their family, and life as they knew it.
Yeah.
So I'm here today with Maggie Sargent. We both share something in common, and that's that we're both former born-again Christians. And you were evangelical.
Yes.
So Maggie followed all the rules by the book, by the Bible, waited for sex until you got married.
Yeah.
You taught a children's Bible study.
Yeah.
And she created her own curriculum.
Yeah.
Jesus and worshiping Jesus was your life.
Yeah.
And so today, Maggie is going to be sharing with us her story of being a Christian and deconverting. Let's start from the beginning. How did you become a born-again Christian, and what did that entail, and what was that like?
Well, I basically grew up in the church. As long as I can remember, my family was Christian. We would go to church every Wednesday, every Sunday. It was Baptist church in upstate New York. And I grew up when there wasn't the internet, and we were on a farm, so it was a little bit secluded of an upbringing. I remember being 5 years old, and I had this letter that I wrote to God, and it said, "Dear God, please remove all the black spots." So from a very young age, I felt like there was something missing inside of me that God was going to fill.
I think we all kind of had that, right?
Yeah.
But that's a very young age.
It's very young.
Maggie grew up living a Christian lifestyle, abstaining from media and art that depicted sexuality, attending church regularly, praying and reading the Bible, and of course, talking to Jesus.
And I remember really liking it until I got to be a teenager, and then I sort of went off when I was a teenager. Like, I started dating boys and doing things that my parents didn't like. You know, I wanted to drink and smoke pot and have sex.
That's not allowed.
Yeah, and dance. You know, I mean, we weren't in a church that you couldn't dance, but I just started rebelling like teenagers do. So I went in this direction, and then I had accepted Jesus as a teenager. I've done it like several times. You know how you say the Lord's Prayer, you invite Jesus into your heart?
That's what my ex's mother had me do. I sat on her sofa and she had me say that prayer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was
salvation
prayer.
Yeah. And that was sort of the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
The official beginning.
Well, I always felt like I was losing it. So I did it like as a kid, and then I felt like I would do something bad, and then maybe I wasn't saved, and then I'd do it again. And I remember thinking like about the rapture a lot.
Which is extremely common in born-again Christianity. Yeah. For people who are new to this, they're going to be like, what are you guys talking about? So
crazy.
There are so many aspects.
So much.
There's so much to talk about. So as we go, we'll just sort of explain.
Okay.
So before you talk about the rapture, talk about your relationship with the Christian God.
Yeah.
Talk about what that was like and how real it felt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit first.
It was very real as a kid. I always felt loved and safe and protected, and that God loved me. And my parents are wonderful. They're both still Christian, but
that helps.
Yeah,
that helps with that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked church a lot until I became a teenager, and then I rebelled. And then what happened?
Exactly. The girl I was going to show you her testimony.
Yeah.
That's exactly her story so far. Very interesting.
It's probably a very similar narrative that people have in their lives, because I rebelled as a teenager, and then I remember thinking, I need to get back. I need to get back to God. So I actually moved away to South Carolina, and I went to college there because I had to get away from all of the crazy things I was doing, which looking back is just normal teenage things.
Yes.
And I met a boy at college, and we started going to church together. And I got really wrapped up in this church, and I decided I was going to re-give my life to Jesus.
At what age?
This was 19.
Okay.
I would rededicate my life to Christ. And I lived in South Carolina, and we started going to a church together, and we got engaged. And I remember thinking, like, something was off about our relationship, but I said yes anyway.
After rededicating her life to Christ and becoming a born-again Christian, Maggie married a Christian man at the age of 22. And they would soon become the model couple that everyone at church looked up to.
We got really involved with the small community. We were like meeting for church in an old Chuck E. Cheese building. And I started teaching kids church, and my husband played guitar. We were like the model couple in church. And all our friends were like these college students that we'd have Bible studies in my college house where I lived with 3 other girls that were all Christians.
So born-again Christianity was really your lifestyle.
It was everything.
It was your life.
Between 19 and 28, almost 10 years of complete and utter, like, being in it. I believed it with my whole entire heart. And I even got married because of it. So I made this decision to marry this man because he loved God, and that was all that mattered. I didn't need anything else.
You just needed a man of God.
Yeah. And so
a man who loved the Lord.
He loved the Lord, and I loved the Lord. And even though, like, don't even look at any of the other signs, like, we're not, like, we're totally opposite in the ways that we view things. You know, he's very black and white. I'm very much like, I live in shades of gray a lot of times. I didn't even know who I was back then. I look back sometimes, I'm like, who is this girl? I was just going through the motions.
Well, you were a teenager, and then you're in your 20s, and we grow and we change, right?
Yeah, so I married him, and I remember walking down the aisle. I had 2 pastors at my wedding.
Why 2?
Because one from my childhood church and one from my new church. And 11 bridesmaids. And we got married in a dairy barn.
Oh, did you really?
I'm vegan now, so
okay,
you know,
a lot changes.
A lot changes. I was a totally different person. We didn't have alcohol at my wedding. Me and my husband hadn't had sex before marriage. We waited.
You were truly the cookie cutter, Bible believing, born again Christian, following the rules.
Yes.
And you had you had a vivid relationship with what you thought was a real entity.
Yeah. I believed in heaven and hell, and that Jesus loved me and he was there for me. And it was actually kind of nice for several years. I actually enjoyed the community of all our friends.
Yeah.
We all loved each other very much.
Yeah. That's another thing too, is for a lot of Christians, whether you're a Christian who's struggling with your faith, or you've recently deconverted, or maybe there will be a lot of Christians watching this who are right in it, like how you were.
Yeah.
Like in the prime of their Christianity.
It
feels very real.
It was the most real thing to me in the world. It was what I lived for. It was not necessarily saving people, but letting people know. It was all I cared about.
Yeah.
Was God and Jesus, and doing right by him, and being a good wife, being a good friend. I started teaching children's church, so we met in this old warehouse, and I repainted the whole inside of it, and I made my own curriculum, and we were learning like the Beatitudes, if you remember those. They're just like different virtues that people have, like patience and kindness. So I had like a different week on these different concepts, and this is where it starts unraveling. A lot of the unraveling started with events that happened. We moved churches, and we were going to start doing them in our houses. We were going to have Bible study in our houses. And when I wasn't teaching children's church, when it was just me and the Bible, and like 8 of us around, they were called like satellite churches. So on Sunday morning, we would all meet in different houses because we didn't have a building yet, or like the building was under construction or something. So when I was face to face with just the Word and the people, I started to...
The Word meaning the Bible.
Word meaning the Bible. I started to like not believe it as much.
When you were alone?
When I was not distracted by teaching children's church.
Okay, so when you had more time...
Yes.
Outside of the Christian community.
Yes.
When you had more time to yourself outside of teaching Christianity, you began to not feel as solidified in your belief in what you were reading in the Bible.
Yes. And we were reading as a group, so we were meeting a couple times a week.
Yeah.
But I felt disconnected. I felt numb.
Yeah.
I felt like this is not right. Something feels very unsettled. If I was in the church and doing the whole children's church performance kind of thing,
then it's all better.
then it's fine. And if I was teaching them things that I believed in, like the power of kindness and the golden rule and all the good things in the Bible, that like there are a lot of good things in there that you learn,
of course,
you know. And if I wasn't doing that, then it just started, like there was something in the back of my head that was like, this is a little off. And then there was a moment that it all fell apart. There was a moment. So we're back in the building.
This was the beginning of the end.
This was the beginning of the end in a major way.
And remind me of how long you were in a intimate relationship with the character of Jesus.
Okay, so I'm 5 years into my marriage now.
Okay. I have to sneeze.
Yep.
It's not going to happen.
That's okay. I'm 5 years
into... The Pentecostals would say that it's a demon.
So let's see. I was 27.
Yeah.
27. I'm
sorry. My mind is blown right now because I can't believe we're talking about this right now. Like, this is so real for so many people. There's going to be so many people watching going, what the hell are they talking about?
I never told them the story.
Deconversion from Christianity is not like, whatever. It is like everything blows up. Yes. There is a nuclear bomb. You are going to die. Like, it's like
fucking big. It's world changing. Yeah,
it's like
earthquake, and then desolation, and then you go underground for a year, and then maybe you come up. And maybe you don't, and don't even know what just happened.
You come up for a cookie that you don't deserve.
Yeah, you don't.
You're so guilty.
Yeah. It is.
Oh my God.
It is monumental.
I should say, oh my dog.
Oh my dog. Oh my dog.
Because, well, I don't have a dog, but
my cat.
If I did.
Yeah.
If I did, I would be able to actually see my dog and talk to my dog without having to imagine that my dog is talking back to me.
Yeah.
So I might not include that because that's a little rude, but so funny. Go on with, like, let's hear this moment, because I remember my moment.
Okay.
Where the walls crumbled, the foundation was knocked down.
Yeah.
And then the crumbling began.
Yeah.
So share that moment with us.
The moment when it all pretty much unraveled at once, almost, was one Sunday morning. I was teaching children's church in this building, and there was like 15 kids, and I had made this curriculum that was centered around the Beatitudes, and every week we learned something different. So it was like kindness, and that was associated with a shape and a color, and then we'd make crafts, and we'd have costumes and that matched it, and then we put the posters on the walls, and it was a whole like big interactive thing. So it was the end of everything, and the topic was sin. Okay, so, and it was red. Red was like the color. So I'm teaching about sin, and a little girl raises her hand and says, "What is sin?" And I started bawling uncontrollably right then and there, because I felt like I could not teach a kid that they were less than perfect, that there was sin in the world and that separated them from God, and that sin existed. And I realized in that exact moment that I didn't believe in sin, and I wasn't going to teach this little girl that sin existed.
You had so much love for them yourself, as a sinful human yourself that needs saving.
Yes.
That you couldn't imagine your Heavenly Father, who is your everything, seeing her as a dirty thing.
Yes.
Well, and so some Christians would argue we don't become accountable for our sins until an age of accountability at 12 or 13, but even 15 is still a new life that is, you know. So you were bawling, and not to cut you off.
Yeah, no.
But I find that interesting because something that happens is born-again Christians, that's what they do, is they bawl. Born-again Christians are always crying.
Yeah.
They're always crying. When I was a born-again Christian.
So many tears, Erin.
The one thing that, like, I'll just share.
Please.
That I am most grateful for emotionally is that I'm not always crying anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not broken anymore.
Yeah.
It was like the narrative of Christianity kept me in a perpetually broken, disturbed state.
Yes.
And therefore, that added to the narrative that I needed to be saved, and I needed this Heavenly Father that I'm still confused about how I should talk to, even though it's been 1,000 hours of prayer.
Yeah.
And I would cry, and I would be broken, and then I would feel better, and I would thank Jesus for helping me feel better. But no, now I don't. Now I understand it was a delusion and an illusion.
Yes.
And it wasn't real. and I'm happy now.
Yeah.
And I'm not broken anymore.
I felt such a heaviness for all the years that I was Christian that like something was wrong.
Oh, because the narrative tells you so. It tells you something is terribly wrong.
Yeah.
It tells you you're wrong.
Yes.
Your children are wrong. The world is wrong.
Yes.
And that we're all unworthy
Yes.
of the right.
It was like this, it was this heavy sadness that I couldn't really be free. I couldn't have fun. I couldn't be who I was. I was never actually me. I wasn't me until I was like almost 30. I spent 30 years.
Well, when I said publicly recently, I made a status publicly coming out about like surviving a Christian cult. And when I say I survived a born-again Christian cult, I don't mean I was trapped, locked in a basement. I mean I survived. Who I am survived. My personality that almost got destroyed and nuked survived.
Oh
my dreams, my dreams that I felt guilty for that were worldly.
Yes.
My desire to deeply connect with millions of people around the world.
Yeah.
All these things that got perverted into a lens of sin.
Yeah.
I now understand is just me being a mammal, a human, wanting to connect with other beings.
Yes.
And wanting to shine because I can.
Yes.
And so I survived the Christianity, me, and I lost myself for a while. I almost lost myself. I almost became a version of Erin that's like a carbon copy, a degraded, confused, lost carbon copy that perpetually needs saving from my own self-destruction.
I can't have said it better.
And so when I say I survived Christian, I survived. I'm here. Erin's back.
Erin is back.
And for a long
Maggie's
time,
back.
people are like, who is this? I would look in the mirror and I would have to pray to feel comfortable with who I was.
Yes, agreed.
Who I wasn't.
Yeah.
Because who I was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was almost like I treated people like they were props. I couldn't actually connect with other people.
Interesting.
Because I myself was just going through the motions of just trying to not feel wrong and bad about myself. So I was just internally thinking it was all about me. So they're just like, I never really got to know somebody because also there's that separation, like, are you Christian or are you not?
Well, that's
and if you're
huge.
not, like,
well, biblically, biblically Christians are commanded to not be unequally yoked.
yes.
And so I also remember the pastor at the church that I tracked down, that I went to when I first became a born-again Christian a few years back. I remember him being on stage with the big purple and orange lights and the great sound system, and he's walking around in his suit. This is the invisible microphone. He goes, "You want to know something? There's a study that's been done that shows that after 5 years, most Christians don't have any non-Christian friends. They're all Christian." And everyone was like, ooh, ah, and they saw that through the narrative of, wow, God really works to tightly knit that community together.
Yes.
But in reality, you actually lose people
Yes.
because you're so stuck in your narrative
Yeah.
that you push them away. You no longer see the good in them because you're focused on the bad in them. And you're so focused on the bad in yourself that you can't embrace relationships. You can't embrace intimacy. You can't embrace your talents, your skills, your goals, because your whole thing is, God, what is your will? God, what is your will? God, what is your will? And that will gets dictated by the narrative, which is just keep serving.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And
that's
keep
what
repenting
happens.
and keep, however, many people will say Jesus liberated them from their sin. Jesus liberated me from, but it's like, well, your definition of liberation and my definition of liberation are different.
Yes.
There are happy Christians who don't live in guilt. But what about the other 150 million that you're not considering right now, that I'm considering and Maggie's considering, that are suffering deeply, consciously and subconsciously, living in the guilt that the Bible specifically tells them they deserve to feel.
Yeah.
And that we don't even, our good works are filthy rags, we're sinners, we're dirty.
Yeah.
Our Heavenly Father will spew us out of His mouth
Yes.
if we are less than extreme.
Don't be lukewarm.
Don't be lukewarm.
I always felt like, less than extreme. I always felt like I'm always lukewarm. I have to go back to the extreme.
Exactly.
I would do some crazy things. I remember near the end, after that, I had that moment of not wanting to teach kids about sin. I got a journal, and I still have them. And I would get up at like 5 a.m. every day, and I would write, "Dear God," and I would pray for our country. I would pray for everybody's salvation, and
because
it's
Christians
weird.
have good hearts.
Yeah.
They do. They have really big, sensitive hearts. You cannot be a Christian unless you've got a big, sensitive, gushing heart.
Yeah.
Or you become a Christian because you don't have a big, sensitive heart and you want to feel that thing you're not feeling.
Yes.
You never, that's what I was saying to you earlier, is it's very rare that anybody goes into born-again Christianity unless they're really fucked up.
Yeah.
Really screwed up. I mean, that's it. Like I was saying earlier, because this is such a restrictive, guilt-driven, fear-based cult, it is a cult. And that's something that's really hard for people to face. Yeah. Cults don't have to be on secluded islands. They don't have to be in, buildings that you go to every day. Yeah. A cult is really the exact definition of a cult. I can pull it up right now. Is...
Can I get some of this pumpkin tea?
Yes, please. We've got pumpkin spice tea here.
Is this for me right here?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you like some?
I would love some.
Which cup would you like?
This one.
Okay. And do you want some of this almond?
I would love some. I can pour that, no problem. So as we're pouring our pumpkin spice tea, the definition of a cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object that is generally a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. It's also a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing, a fixation or idolization of a certain concept, and it's a community of just that, right? Yeah. And it is twisted because it's not just like, we want to make the world a better place. It's like we believe that if you're not with us, you're going to squirm in agony, and that our dad that we're in love with in heaven, we love him so much that even though he's going to send you there so that can be done to you, we're so in love with him that we're going to write songs for him. Like, I'm sorry.
So many songs.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's sinister. Yeah. That's some sinister shit.
Should I put this in there?
Yeah. Did you shake it?
No.
Did I shake it? Doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm sure it's delicious.
Yeah. There were things that I did as a Christian. Like, my parents took us to Mexico City quite a bit. My mom in particular, and we would go to the garbage dumps and we would wash people's feet, and I would work with the kids there. Wow. And it was this organization called Operation Serve, and it was such a loving organization, even though they did focus on how many salvations they got. Like, since not being a Christian, I miss some of like the altruism, the giving, that like just like the fact that you just go there and help people. And I do wish that there was an outlet for people when they deconvert to love on people and to share selflessly.
Well, and that's the thing, is that when you deconvert from born-again Christianity or any similar religious cult-like community, you don't have to stop doing the things that fill you with joy. Yeah. You just don't have to do them in the name of your religion or your God anymore. Yeah. You can still go volunteer at a homeless shelter. You can still go volunteer at you're free to continue being a great person. Yeah. You just no longer have to scare people into believing lies. Yeah. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have something to say about the process of deconverting and what you can do for a friend that's losing their faith. So after I left Christianity, I split up with my husband. We basically separated immediately, and all of my friends left.
What do you mean they left?
Like, I didn't...
Your Christian female friends?
Well, okay, so there's more to the story, and I can kind of get into, and I'm happy to, but...
we can do that in another episode.
Okay, so after I left Christianity, I left the church, and basically my whole worldview was turned upside down. Of course. And all of my friends didn't understand, because they didn't see this coming. They thought me and my husband were doing well, and I didn't want anything to do with the church. I started reading xchristian.net. I watched this documentary called The God Who Wasn't There. I just sort of secluded myself.
Yeah, when I deconverted, I was using the Recovering Ex-Christians Facebook group. Yeah, and that helped me a lot.
Yeah, there are some great resources out there for deconverting, but I became so depressed. I was I did nothing for like a year.
Wow.
I lost everything.
Wow.
I was so jarred to the core, rattled, that this was not true. Because my entire life, I was age 28 when it actually all went down.
Oh my gosh.
And it's now been 12 years. So I just turned 40. And I still think I need some therapy, actually.
Of course.
You know, I mean, I never got any from it, but what I wanted to express to people, like, is if your friends, like, all we needed during this time, all I needed was just somebody to take me out to the movies or not talk to me about God. Like, at this point, all of my friends were Christian. I didn't have any non-Christian friends when I was going through all this. I had one. And my parents were supportive, but everybody just thought I was like the Jezebel.
Yes, of course. I mean,
So-
to a lot of Christians right now, we're going to look like the Jezebel, like, instead of the View, the Jezebel. That's what we're going to look like right now.
Yeah.
You know that TV show where the girls
Yeah.
talk? I mean, and that's the thing. I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about the fixation on the demonic.
Yeah, okay.
Was that something that you experienced a lot in Christianity? Was fixation on demons, or is that not so much in yours?
At times, I think I blocked out a lot, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
But we would go to camp sometime and talk a lot about demons and being demon possessed. I was told I was demon possessed.
By who?
By one of the clients that knew us through my business with my husband.
Oh my gosh.
And my pastor
I mean,
might
I'm
have
not
said that,
so-
like,
I'm not surprised, but I say, oh my gosh, because just looking at you and talking to you and having spent this afternoon with you and thinking back on my own experience, how did we go through that, believing it to be real?
I have no idea now. Like, when I was in it, I wish that I, like, knew what I knew now, because it was so heavy and terrible, and I felt so bad about myself.
It was scary too.
It was so scary.
Yeah.
I was, now I laugh.
Right.
I'm through it now, and I think that it's just, like, humorous to think that I was so upset over all of this.
But when you're in it, you literally believe you need the blood of Christ to sanctify you and save you from these nefarious entities that want to tear you apart in hell, that may or may not be looking at you through your bedroom closet. What?
Yeah.
That's something you believe when you're 5, not when you're 25.
Yeah.
And when you believe that when you're 25, I think that is a sign of, like, learned mental illness, learned delusion. I mean, you can't be mentally well. This is the thing, is so many Christians say, I'm fine, you know, Jesus is Lord of my life, everything's great. If you truly believe these horrible things, there is only a certain level of mental serenity and mental health that you can have while simultaneously believing such horrific, evil, violent narratives every single day of your life. If you wake up in the morning and the sun is shining and you thank Jesus for a new day, while simultaneously, subconsciously, truly believing that God is going to send you somewhere to be torn to shreds over and over again, you are not mentally well. That's not wellness. That's illness.
Yes.
That's not healthy. That's not kind. That's not true. And even if it is true, how can anybody believe? I mean, it's like being on a ship that you know is going to sink. And you know that when that ship sinks, there will be many of your friends who are going to get torn apart by sharks. You cannot go down smiling. And if you do, it doesn't matter how mentally well you tell me you are, how good you feel, how much dopamine is rushing through your body because you spent a lot of time praying or listened to enough Hillsong. You're not that well. You're you know your friends are going to suffer and die. And be
for all
tortured.
eternity.
Yeah, but the person driving the ship is your dad.
Yeah.
And he's going to sink it.
Yeah.
And he's going to throw them to the sharks.
Yeah.
What?
It's such a heavy way to grow up. I was very mad at my parents for years. I mean, I don't know if they'll watch this. They're lovely. They're still lovely.
But someone taught them this too, you know? Somebody taught them and scared them enough to believe it.
And I feel like I lost a decade of my life because I wouldn't have gotten married if I wasn't Christian. I mean, maybe I was saved from some stuff. I wasn't ready quite to, like, live maybe without the constraints of it. Maybe I needed that to grow and learn things during that time. I try not to regret, but I really do look back at my life, and I feel like I live my 20s now, you know, in my mid-30s. because I lost a lot.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. Your sexuality is suppressed.
Yeah.
Your creativity is suppressed. Your self-expression. I was just asking her earlier, do you swear? When you're a Christian, you cannot, even if the word is, comedic, or it expresses your point of view, or it even helps you understand your thoughts better. If you swear, you have to repent, and it's like you are walking on eggshells as a lifestyle.
I remember, this was in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I had a little ad agency, and we did a tiny art event. And so my husband, and maybe it was our neighbor, had a beer and it was a picture that got taken of us, and it was put in the paper. And I was afraid that I was going to be seen with a beer.
Oh my gosh.
Legal age.
And that was real stress.
This was real stress. So you can't actually, what is wrong with having a beer? Please enjoy yourself in your mid-20s responsibly at an art event.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little bit more about when you deconverted.
Yeah.
What did your husband think of that? Did you tell him that I no longer believe in Jesus? Did you just lose your faith in the Bible and then Jesus? Did you believe in Jesus for a little while? Did you try to ask him about sin and he didn't answer you? How did your deconversion go in that sense?
It went down really bad. A lot of the unraveling of Christianity happened synonymously with the unraveling of my marriage, because I believe that we got married because it was what you do next in the church, and all our friends were getting married. He was a man of God. Everybody loved him. We were like this model couple in our church. It was the identity we had built around our lives. And the first couple years were okay. We rented a house. We started an ad agency together. We stayed busy. But then, the sex, the connection was not good.
Really?
We had sex for the first time on our honeymoon.
Okay.
And I remember I had bought this, I don't know if you want to cut this out, but I bought this lingerie thing. And I remember just kind of we were just such kids, and this was back in 2000. I got married in 2000. And I was running around at our honeymoon suite with it, and he made some comment that I was being silly or something, and I just remember feeling this is not right. This is going to be forced. Not forced in a forceful way, but it's going to be, you know what I mean?
It wasn't unraveling like the fairy tale Christian dream you thought it would.
No. I knew before I walked down the aisle, I almost had a panic attack, and I knew that I shouldn't be doing it.
That's so strange, because didn't it seem like Jesus or God or the Holy Spirit led you into that marriage?
It did. It was almost like there's two parts of me. There was the logic part, but I kept on suppressing it. It was how I actually felt. And then there was, Oh, well,
I know, because
other part.
I don't mean to be condescending or rude, but in order to be a born-again Christian long term, you have to constantly suppress your logic when it comes up.
Yes.
And you need to pray it away.
Yes.
And you need to repent for your logic. And you need to repent for actions that you commit due to your own logic.
Yes.
So Christianity, born-again Christianity, is often a war with your own logic.
I was at war with myself. So I didn't have the freedom to just be free and feel and learn. I was constantly battling my real feelings versus what I felt I should be doing and what other people wanted from me.
So what were your real feelings? Did you feel suppressed in Christianity, or was it just the relationship? Share a little bit about the conflict that you faced due to being a Christian.
Yeah. Okay. I felt that... how do I explain this? When I told my husband I wanted a divorce, we were in New York City at a conference.
Was this before or after you deconverted?
This was right as I was deconverting.
So you knew that the Bible was not something you believed to be true?
Yeah.
And you knew that Jesus was not something you believed to be true?
It was all sort of happening at the same time.
Okay.
So it was about a 5 to 6 month unraveling.
Okay.
That was mixed with me getting up at 5 a.m, writing to God.
So you weren't giving up. You were trying to hold on to this.
No, I was trying to hold on claws.
You did not want to let God go. You did not want to let Christianity go. You wanted to save it with everything you had.
But I was and simultaneously, I have a new friend in my life who's a man, and you don't even have a man friend. and
Right.
and he was a filmmaker in a project I was working on. And nothing happened between us except a lot of conversations. And he was talking to me about atheism. I realized that my marriage was based on Christianity, and I no longer believed, or I was starting to not believe. And then my whole identity as a Christian wife, as a children's church leader, as a Christian friend, even living in South Carolina where I did everything that I had built around myself. It's like I had built this, I was sitting in a sandbox and I like built everything around me in Christian world.
It's the Christian it's the Christian bubble.
I was in it.
Yeah.
Geographically, everything. And all my friends being Christian. So I had an outside friend during this time, my only non-Christian friend, and he didn't believe and just would answer questions that I had. It was my only lifeline to the outside
of
world.
the Christian bubble.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're in something like born again Christianity,
Yeah.
you really are in what I would call the Christian bubble.
Yeah.
Everything around you is Christian land.
Yes.
Christian TV, Christian music. I mean, they don't even listening to secular music that's non-Christian is even debated. Should you even be doing that for more than 5 minutes? Your music is Christian. Your fucking soup is Christian. Everything's Christian.
Christian soup for the soul.
Yeah.
That book.
And so confirmation bias is one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, confirmation bias is powerful enough as it is when you already believe something and then you selectively notice the things that reinforce that belief.
Yeah.
That's powerful enough as it is without being in a bubble that confirms that, But when you're in the Christian world, it's like everyone outside of it is wrong and everyone around you reinforces it. So he was your one outside,
Wait, and I had another person too. I started acting at the time. I wanted to do plays.
Uh-oh.
So
be careful with that.
This started me thinking I can do things not with my husband and not with all my friends. And then the types of plays I was auditioning for and started doing were things like subtle emotional thoughts. It wasn't just black and white Christ stuff.
Yeah.
This was art that I hadn't experienced my entire life because I was just seeing things like black and white Christian world.
Absolutely.
So I'm here in this art world. I have these two friends that are outside of it. And then when I finally told my husband, again, a moment, we were on a retreat in New York City with my ad agency, and all of us were sharing a hotel room. And I went downstairs and I was
This was another pivotal.
This is where it all also fell apart the second time, and this was the final time. I went downstairs to email my friend because I was just having a hard time being around him and with my faith. And my husband followed me downstairs, and I told him right then and there. He said, "Should I be afraid?" And I said, "I want a divorce." I was just and it just
And so why did you want that divorce? Because you knew he would never deconvert from Christianity?
He would never let me leave him because they don't let their wives leave. We would go to therapy. I didn't want that life. I had to run.
You didn't want to have to go to church and try to fix it with the pastor and try to fix it with the...
I was done.
Because you knew it was too deep?
I knew I was in too deep in that entire identity that if I didn't get out of that marriage, if I didn't get out of the friend group, if I didn't get out of the church,
you would just be haunted by it all.
I would just I couldn't. It was so all consuming. It was everything I did.
Yeah.
So I told him I was in love with somebody else.
You more so just wanted out of the cult?
I wanted out, and I told him that, and it was it wasn't the truth. But I wanted him to be okay and say, okay, she's a cheating Jezebel, terrible person.
You just wanted out.
Everybody else got the story that I was in love with somebody else, and I was a very bad person. So the entire church didn't want anything to do with me. I was basically like a devil. And so then I just...
Did anyone approach you from the church and say, hey, what's actually going on here?
Very, very few. There's a girl, Kim. I would want to just say, thank you, Kim. There was a couple. And you know what? Years later, my college roommates came around. And they were nice to me. But I lost everything. So here I am. I lost my husband. I lost everything I ever believed.
Now, had this Christian world, this Christian bubble you were in not been so all-consuming and not been so disturbing in its core beliefs, would you have tried to work it out with your husband?
I could have.
But because because the Christian world was so aggressive in its beliefs. There was just, you had to leave.
Yeah, because we didn't exist outside of it, because
It was who you were.
we got together because of it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I basically married into God, church, Jesus, everything. I wasn't just married to him.
You were married to Jesus.
Yes.
The both of you were married to God.
Yes. It was
The Christian
everything.
God.
We had nothing outside of that. Unfortunately, I hate to even, it sounds like I'm really stupid, but that's what happened.
No, I mean, that is how it is. I know how that is. Not to the extent that you do, but I know what it's like to be trying to work a relationship out with somebody.
Yeah.
But because if you're not reading the Bible enough, or you're not praying enough, or not going to church, the relationship ends because the relationship is revolving around the Christian world.
Yes.
And so without the Christian world, there is no relationship.
Absolutely.
Which is strange, because two people can have different careers, different talents, different passions. One person can be a professional singer, the other person can be a firefighter, and they can have a loving relationship. But in the Christian bubble, if you're not both revolving around Christ, it's over.
Well, because the two shall be one.
Right.
And you shouldn't be unequally yoked.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I couldn't just like not go to church with my husband, or, you know, I do this acting thing on the side.
And he's going to church.
Yes. So all of a sudden, like, what's up with Maggie? And then people start talking. Like, I just saw the whole thing and had to get away as fast as I could, the quickest way possible.
Yeah.
And then it threw me into a really deep depression, and it took a year to get out.
Wow.
And then when I got out, I moved cities, and I'm just now healing, you know?
Yeah.
It's been 12 years, and I'm just now getting, like, I'm making a comeback now.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So born-again Christianity caused you a lot of harm, mentally, emotionally?
Yeah. I'd say 2 decades of my life.
Do you still grieve over that, or cry over, or you know, have remorse where it hurts?
No, not anymore. No, I'm going to cry.
That's okay. Just be in it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Not anymore. But it took a long... I'm just now getting okay with, like, who I am. I just now am, like, liking myself. And I feel free, like, I can say things in front of my parents. Like, maybe that it's like the equivalent of swearing. Like, I can tell a story that's just an emotional thing that I felt. Or I can be vulgar or dark or angry or feel, you know, I can feel all the feelings.
You can feel all the feelings.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel.
Yeah.
And that can hurt, knowing that, oh, it is okay to feel.
Yes.
Know? Whereas before, it wasn't okay.
No, I suppressed it forever.
Yeah.
You know? And so I feel like I have a new lease in life now. I have new friends. I have a new relationship.
And you don't have to microanalyze, is this friendship serving the Lord? Is this job serving the Lord? Is this pleasing the Lord? Is this, you know, you don't have to have this crazy sort of full-time job of trying to figure out if the okay things you're doing are okay.
Yes.
By this third party that you can't even...
Yes.
This, I hate to say it, but... fictional third party.
Yeah.
So many people say Christianity is beautiful and it's wonderful, and to those people I would say, you don't know what Christianity is. You have no idea what it is. The core beliefs of Christianity teach you things that make you feel disgust in others and in yourself for being a natural human being. Yes. And so you're at war with your nature, which often is not even harmful to yourself or others. What's harmful is the war. That's the whole crazy thing why we're sitting here doing this. Yeah, she missed dinner to come talk about this because this is real and people are suffering. And if you're suffering with depression, if you're suffering with suicidal tendencies, if you have a mental illness, a chronic illness, please don't feel like a cult such as born-again Christianity is the only way out. There is a way to heal, and the only true way to heal, I was telling Maggie earlier, I believe you have to heal within the scope of reality. If you are using a false ideology or narrative to feel better or heal, it's not true healing. And when it unravels, you're going to hit the floor so hard that you're going to have maybe a concussion for a year like Maggie did, where you're just... the fall is harder than the climb up to the fake healing, the false healing.
Yes.
So you've got this struggle to falsely heal in this false narrative, and then you've got the struggle of recovering from wasting so much of your time and yourself doing that.
Yes.
So, yeah, when I deconverted, it hit, as far as you having to leave your husband because outside of Jesus there was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you guys would just fall apart as a couple. I resonate with that because I was in a relationship with someone that was not gonna he who shall not be named, even though everybody knows who he is if they know who I am. You know, there was always this desire to try to work things through and try to work it out and try to you know, make it work. Maybe we have something special. But because I wasn't reading my Bible enough and I was too, you know, bossy, and there's some personality, you know, some issues, there was no working that out like a natural human. There was certainly no working it out like a mammal, because you can't even be sexually intimate and be close to the person you love. The only way to work it out was to get into the Word, shut the fuck up, and repent.
Oh my God.
And I tried that for a while, and it didn't work for me. It didn't work for him. And not only did it not work for us as a couple, it doesn't even work for his parents. Not to slander, but let's just talk about the Christian nuclear family for a moment. It does not work. Born-again Christianity doesn't work. Now, if this false narrative that is inherently violent and oppressive worked, that would be one thing. And it would get my grace a little bit. But it doesn't even work. It doesn't. No. You know, and some people go, oh, well, it saved my relationship. It saved this. Again, you are not considering the millions of people who this totally failed. Totally failed. How many best friends are no longer best friends due to the Christian narrative? How many couples that could have had an amazing relationship and a less harmful breakup? How you know, how much unnecessary suffering occurs because of Christianity? So much that I'm willing to talk about this when I have 1,000 other things I could talk about. So
it's really important.
Yeah.
It was the most miserable time of my life.
Your deconversion.
Well, my time in Christianity, really being in it, because looking back, I couldn't be in my own nature, and it was. Now,
I mean, Maggie was even asking me if this shirt was okay, and we were
too sexy.
We were talking about the inner Christian voice that still lingers. Like, I still have this little like 2% thing in my head that's like, are you sure you should do this? You know, are you sure you shouldn't just repent? And I'm like, well, of course not. Like, it's a narrative. It's a powerful, powerful narrative.
Yeah. It took me years to be like, oh, it's okay to have sex with somebody.
Oh my gosh. Can you believe that? It's actually, it's totally like, okay.
I'm not being like a bad girl. This is like a relationship I'm in.
This is what I
want to do right now. And you want to do this, so we're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really natural. It's really normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm grateful for it, for where I'm at now. And I can see, because I came out of it, I see, it's actually, I love people so much more now.
Oh, like, yeah.
I'm so...
That's the other thing is people have this idea that when they leave the cult, when they leave the fold, when they deconvert, they're going to lose that Christian God-generated love.
Yeah.
No, that is your love that you have inside you.
Yes.
No matter what narrative you believe.
Yes.
That's you. And you can still have that. You can still have that. I agree. I love people so much.
Yeah.
And to even fathom believing that is coming from a place of demonic or false or not as good. No. You know, it's real. We're kind, gentle creatures that want to have kind, gentle interactions with other creatures.
Yes. It's not because I have to, or because like God is looking, it's what you do.
Yeah, and it's not because, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's born-again Christianity. It butchers your identity. Mm-hmm. It makes you have a skewed relationship to your own nature. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but I just want to quickly talk about the deconversion quickly one more time. As when I deconverted, it was so painful.
Yeah.
It was so painful. And I was like scratching and kicking and trying to save it.
Yeah.
I would read the Bible. I would cry. I would pray.
Wow.
I would beg. I went to like 7 different churches in a matter of like 7 days.
Oh, yeah. I remember going to churches.
Trying to find knocking on the church. Maybe this is the one.
Yeah.
No, God. Maybe this one. And then you think Jesus is leading you to 6 wrong churches so you can find the 7th right one.
Yeah.
It's madness.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Yeah. It's
actually insanity. So yeah, I tried, and I couldn't fight it anymore. And I'm grateful that whatever experiences in my life gave me the privilege. It's almost like a privilege for my logic to overpower the emotional part of my brain.
Yes.
Because that's where the Christians are operating. They're in the limbic part of their brain. They're in the emotional part of their brain. And it rules everything. Yeah. And when your emotions drive everything, you could be driving down the street in 6 circles and think that's what the Lord wanted you to do. That's how they operate. Yeah. They'll go to Israel because this is like 3 different people I know of. Go to Israel randomly because they believe God wanted them to go to Israel randomly. Yeah. I do things randomly, but it's because I want to. Not because I think that God wants me to and I'm wondering why. And I never actually know why, but I just am like, okay.
Yeah. You can take control of your own life again, and you make decisions based on how you feel and logic.
You get your sovereignty back from yourself.
It's like I retook this vessel. It's like it was just running on autopilot. Like it was programmed a certain way, and then now I got her back. Yeah. And like the real Maggie can finally shine
instead of being shamed.
Yes.
Because the light that we have inside of us, that's, when I say light, I don't mean that metaphysically. I mean things that are awesome.
Yeah.
It gets shamed.
Yes.
You know, the shame suppresses the positive aspects of our personalities when we're in born again Christianity. So I just want to reiterate again, born again Christianity is not some light, fluffy, airy fairy trend. It is a very strict set of beliefs that revolve around the ideology that you are a sinner and that you need to be saved and that without the grace of God, you are worthy of suffering.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what born again Christianity is.
Yeah.
That's pain.
Yeah.
Born again Christianity is pain. And the whole journey of born again Christianity is trying to escape that pain.
Yes.
And you don't. You don't escape it.
No.
You listen to beautiful music. You read beautiful things and you hang out with beautiful people, and that feels better sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Live in a fantasy.
Yeah.
I feel good talking about this.
Good. Is there anything else you want to share?
I'm really happy that you're putting this video out there for people because they need to know. And I couldn't tell my story.
They need to know what?
They need to know that you don't have to turn to born again Christianity if you are sad, if you're depressed, if you're lonely.
If you've done something terrible.
If you are feeling shamed, if you feel alone and like you don't have friends, there are other like ways to find community and love that are authentic and within your own nature that aren't part of this cult
that won't come back
system.
to bite you and beat you up and take you for a ride like you're chained to a truck going down the freeway. Yeah. Because that's what this will do to you. Yeah. And it will do this to you even if you don't deconvert. Yeah. It'll just do it in different ways.
Well, and some people say to me like, oh, but Jesus was so loving and I want to like, do you want to like address that at all?
Sure, yeah.
Because like sometimes when people say things like, I think you can still have the good qualities of Jesus. Those are just in you. It's not because you're a Christian. You're good. Like you're good.
Well, no, and Christianity says you're not. Christianity tells you specifically you are not good. But then in other verses, the Bible, it tells you you're good, but that's only within the context of you being in the Christian bubble where you have to shimmy a lot to stay there. Yeah. You have to shimmy and suppress. But yeah, people say Jesus was, people worship an idea of the character of Jesus. Uh-huh. The true character of Jesus was violent. He did a lot of great things. Yeah. But the true character of Jesus biblically was violent, homophobic, violent to women and children in his fatherly form, which is the God of the Old Testament.
I forget so much of this. I just want to remember Jesus is like, sometimes I'm like, Jesus is okay, but everything else is, but stuff's in the Bible, like it says it in black and white, right?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, people project what they want. I think what people are doing with the idea of Jesus is because there are so many disturbing things that Jesus said and did. I mean, like deal breakers.
Yeah.
Like deal breakers. I can't worship this character.
Yeah.
I can't worship this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what they do when they, and this is just my opinion, when they worship Jesus and fall in love with Jesus, is they're really projecting the qualities and characteristics of a human in their with a
Like
good
best,
personality,
yes.
onto this character and worshiping it. So what you're doing is you're really just worshiping the good human archetype.
Wow. I have chills.
I have chills. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so all of these things, all of these things that Jesus are that you love so much, is you.
Oh my god.
When you don't hate yourself. Right.
Holly agrees.
Let's get her up here.
Oh my gosh.
And then there's the question of, do pets go to heaven? Who's gonna scratch?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so
That is beautiful. So like, you're wonderful. People are wonderful.
people are wonderful, and it's people that created the wonderful aspects of the character of Jesus that we all fall in love with. We made that.
Yeah.
We wrote that.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. It was us who made it.
Yeah.
And we look up to it. So I would encourage people who are struggling with letting go of the character of Jesus that they clung to, is look around at the beautiful people in your life who have those characteristics already.
Yeah.
And you'll find many of them don't believe in this character themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Generosity, kindness, sacrifice, love.
All those, that's where the confusion came from when I was teaching children's church, because those were all the things that I believed about Christianity. But I thought it was Christianity. I didn't know that it was just like in me, in other people. It was just part of us.
It is. That's where it came from.
Like the most beautiful, positive message. That's like a message that will save the world.
Actually save. When they say get saved, when they say get saved,
Yeah.
you don't want to get saved that
Yeah.
way. It's very interesting that it's get saved. I got saved. I got saved. Saved from what?
Yeah.
From all the negative, dark stuff. But that you don't need a character outside of yourself to be saved.
Yeah.
But when you think there's this alternate place, when you think there's a hell you're going to and that you're going to be sent there by an authority entity, then you're just scrambling. And that's another thing too, is a lot of Christians are not really practicing what they're doing because they're in love with it. They're doing it out of fear, you know. It's very fear-based.
So much fear. Yeah, so much guilt.
Again, you cannot have born-again Christianity without pain, and you cannot have born-again Christianity without fear.
Yeah.
You need pain and fear.
Yeah.
Pain, fear, and love,
Yes.
which is the human condition,
Yeah.
but it's just exemplified
Yes.
into a routine that drives you up the fucking wall and makes you really stressed out, especially when something goes bump in the night.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you ever
Yeah.
Do you ever remember something going bump in the night, or something would happen, or something would fall in your house, and it would
It's always the demons.
it's always the demons.
You know, I had a thought like 2 weeks ago. I was just going through some stuff and it's still there. I was like, do I need an exorcism?
No.
Is there a demon in me? But you know, sometimes you just like, it comes back to you and I'm like, Maggie, stop it. It's not a demon. You're just like getting your period. You're just depressed for a minute.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Something else I want to quickly say is that even though it's ridiculousness, the things that we believed as born-again Christians, smart people, very smart people believe these ridiculous things. And that's why it's so convincing, is because there's so many people. And there's a great talk on that I'll put in the link below.
Okay.
It's called Why Smart People Believe Silly Things or something.
Oh.
And it's from a former Christian as well.
it's good. Life is good now.
Life is so good.
And I want people to have a great life.
Yeah, life is so good.
Yeah.
After Christianity,
It is.
I cannot.
You can shine.
I'm shining now.
Yeah.
For so long I wasn't shining.
Yeah,
And then
I know.
And then when I would shine, it had to be within the scope of the Christian bubble, and I was trying to write worship music, and I was trying to
Oh, wow.
you know, it's like, just shine.
Yeah.
Just shine.
Yeah.
You know, don't try to just be good to people.
Yes.
Be excellent to
Yes.
each other.
Yes.
And shine. You're not this dirty, nasty thing. You may have done dirty, nasty things.
Yeah.
So look at that. I did something dirty. I did something nasty. I am very sorry.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
All the other stuff is a narrative, and that's what
Yes.
this entire series is about, is questioning the narrative and questioning Christianity. And when you started to question the narrative within Christianity of this child growing into this sinful, dirty rag woman one day, that's when it fell apart.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going to happen, is when people start questioning the narrative they have in their head, their conscious and their subconscious, they're going to find themselves deconverting from this false cult they're in.
Yeah.
And then their life is going to open up.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get to shine.
Yeah. And you can come on your show and talk about it. Wow. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, Maggie. So this is not the last time you will hear from Maggie. There's so much to share. This is kind of all over the place, but there's many different subtopics that we can discuss that need to be discussed about this. And Holly came to greet me. We're all done, and she's like, "Good job."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll just finish with thank you. I think we'll just finish with thank you so much for sharing your story. I know there's more to it, but hopefully this gave people some hope that you can be a beautiful, shining, happy, loving, successful, healthy person after you deconvert from Christianity. You're not suffering with guilt and shame.
No.
You're not suffering with fear and confusion.
No.
You're in love with life.
Yeah.
And you love yourself again.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's
Yay.
it. Can I give you a hug?
Yes. It felt so good to talk about this. I've never, ever just sat down and focused on my story, ever. And I feel free, and I feel like it's going to help people.
It's going to help people a lot.
I didn't ever think that it would help people. I just kept it in here, so.
Well, it's going to help a lot of people. Great.
Thanks.
Okay, and you have actually a film? You have a documentary you made?
Yes, I made a documentary during this time called Divorcing God, and I followed a young couple that didn't kiss before they got married, from their engagement to their divorce.
Wow.
So it's just studying these types of, all the stuff we talked about. It's shown in this little story of this one couple in Charlotte, North Carolina. So
great. So if you want to check that out, where can they find that?
It's on divorcinggod.org. There's a link on Vimeo, and you can download it.
I'll provide the link in the description. And how can we connect with you on social media?
Maggie Sargent on Facebook, and Sargent Mags 1 on Instagram.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. And stop living in fear.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Nobody's really talking about this. Nobody's really talking about how profoundly damaging and harmful born-again Christianity really is.
Yeah.
It's harmful to so many aspects of our lives. And it's really not as simple as just, everyone can have their beliefs. And did you hear that dog? It's really not as simple as...
He agrees.
He's like, it's not as simple as, just let everyone do their thing.
Yeah.
The whole premise of born-again Christianity is that nobody's allowed to do Nobody's allowed to do their thing. And if you let people do their thing, if you let your children do their thing, if you let your boyfriend do their thing, if you do your thing, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
And you're going to have demons and all this other stuff.